Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. My name is Louis Mendes. This is the big match preview on this evening's show. We will, of course, be looking ahead to Saturday's home game against Exeter City at the Valley. Joining me to look ahead to that, plus speak about much, much more. Top right, first up, star of BBC Radio London's All About Charlton, half an hour or so. Sue Gallop, how you doing, Sue?
I'm all good, thanks. I feel like I'm on this endless wheel of media appearances.
Were you the star or the expert? I can't work out. Were you the top guest?
I was the top guest.
And I was the expert. Well, they set their bar low, haven't they? Also joining us on the bottom of the screen there, a man who's come dressed as Tom Wallen is Mr. Mark Newbury. How do you, Mark?
Yeah, this is my Walling cosplay in tribute to Tom, who's not with us tonight. So those people who've been tuning in to see what he's thinking, so you're going to be disappointed. You get me and Sue.
Yeah, you think the yellow awake it looks bad on Tom? Wait till you see it on Mark Newbury. Those of you listening on the podcast as well. So on this evening's show, then, as I said, we'll be gearing up for Saturday's home game with Exeter as the Addicts try and get back on track after that very narrow defeat up at Birmingham last week. We're going to hear from an Exeter fan later on in the show. Tom Vickery is going to join us, tell us a little bit about the GRECIANS in the first half of the show as well. We're going to try and have a bit of fun. We're going to look at the fixtures between now and the end of the season. We're going to try and work out which one of those games we can target as the amount of wins we need to get to the playoffs. We're also going to hear from Nathan Jones, of course. He's going to look ahead to the game with Exeter. So we're going to hear from him speaking about the goalkeeper situation. Obviously, Ashley Maynard-Brewer going off injured the other day. We're going to hear him talk about Alex Mitchell as well. He's obviously come out the side recently, if we get time, just to hear what he has to say on Alex being out of the team. I want to say good evening to everyone who's joining us live in the chat. Gary first up says, evening all, we didn't deserve anything from the Birmingham game. David's in there, Robert, Sam, Bernie, Keith, John, Paul, who's disappearing at half-time to check on events in the yet-to-be-renamed Albert Square. It's a live episode of EastEnders tonight, and my wife's watching it without me for the first time ever as well, because it's live. So yeah, I can't believe both Paul and my wife are leaving me just to watch EastEnders. Disgusting behaviour. Yeah, let us know your thoughts on everything we're about to talk about. Let us know your thoughts ahead of Saturday's game as well. Right, first 20 minutes of the show or so, we're going to try something a little bit different. You will be shocked and appalled, those of you watching on YouTube, to find out that I've put a little Excel spreadsheet together. But I've decided. I saw someone, Dan, who's our resident Shrewsbury fan, who comes on every time we play Salop, has sort of mapped out how many games they need to win in order to stay up, and he's sort of targeted each fixture as well. One they might win, one they might take a point from, that sort of thing. So I thought, why don't we do the same thing and try and work out which games the Addicts need to get results from in order to hit the playoffs. So we've got 15 games left to play. We're into the run-in now. We're obviously sitting just outside the top six at this moment in time. It's hard to tell exactly how many points we're going to need. Traditionally, 75 points would be enough for the playoffs. We're currently on 50, so we need 25 more points. So, as you can see on one of my tables here, if you're watching on YouTube, if not, I'll just explain it to you. I think we need to target about 6 or 7 wins. If it's 7 wins, we can draw 4, and we can afford to lose 4. If it's 6 wins, we need to draw 7, and we can only afford to lose 2. So what I'm not saying here is that this is a prediction for how all of these games are going to go, Sue and Mark. But what I'm going to ask you is to, first of all, pick the 7 that we are going to target as must win. So these are games that we would be expected to win, and we've got to make sure we follow through with it. So Sue, I'm going to put the first one in for you. I'm going to start with Saturday against Exeter City at home. So I want to know what you think. That's 3 points on the board if we can win that. What games do you think we have to target as the must wins? And everyone in the chat as well, let us know which are the easiest games that we have to go for and say, right, let's get these wins drawn off, because we've got to get 7. You know, there's some tough games coming up. Let's target the wins first. Sue, look down the list and tell me which ones.
So we were basically saying we must win Exeter, yeah?
Yeah. So we need to pick 7 wins. Yeah. So I've said we must win the Exeter game.
Right. Okay. I'd say gotta win. I ain't got to do it in any particular order, right?
No, just let me know and I'll add them to the table and we'll see what it looks like.
So I'd say we've got to win Crawley away. Got to win Wigan at home. Got to win Lincoln at home. Got to win Cambridge away. I would say got to win Northampton at home. Got to win Burton at home.
Yeah, right. So I'll stop you there, Sue. So you've picked 7 games to win. So I've said we need to win 7 games. Paul in the chat has said Exeter, Crawley, Burton, Wigan, Peterborough, Northampton, Mansfield, and Lincoln can all go down as must-win games. Now, the interesting thing about what we're doing here, Mark and Sue, and I think it's interesting anyway, is we're going through games that we know we can win, but I think we're going to leave ourselves a little bit of leeway as well. So it's just an idea of what we might need to achieve in the second half of or in the last 15 games of the season. Mark, when you look at that set of fixtures, are there any other ones there that you're actually looking at thinking I expect we will win that game? Now, I agree with Sue. All the ones she's put in there, I'd say, are the ones that are most winnable for us so far. Mark, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean, she stole my thunder. I mean, I was doing the 7 in my head as she was saying them. Starting with Burton and working up, and I'm thinking, yeah, I agree with that. The only other thing, possibly Mansfield, if they're absolutely in free fall at the moment, and their luck is running out, so that's a possible. But I wouldn't put it as a must win. It's a possible win. I know you don't have possible as an option, but with those
we do. So the ones I'm putting as possible, I'm putting as might win. And now, so that's counting as a draw. So this is how we're doing it. We're going to pick must-win games, which are counting in as 3. We're going to pick might-win games, which are counting as 1. And then we're going to assign some as tough. And now I'm not saying that we're going to go ahead and lose these games. And I think if all the ones that I assign as tough, we do lose, I think it's going to be a problem. But it'll just show that we have to make sure we pick up points in the other games as well, Mark.
Yeah, see, I possibly would change Exeter to a might win. Only for the fact that they just are quite a decent underrated side, I think. And, they took Forest to penalties with 10 men. So it's hard. Barnsley is a might win because Barnsley don't travel well. I'm looking at the ones now thinking I can see losses there. I can see Wickham away a loss, Wrexham away a loss, Peterborough away. I can't see us getting anything there. They're going to be a bit riled up, because that's quite fresh in the memory.
They've been very poor this season. I was going to put that down as a might win. We'll put it down as a tough for now, and we'll change it when we work out what we need to do. Sue, so of the home games left, then Huddersfield's the only one left on that list. So I mean, if we were to win all the other home games that we've assigned as a win, like we can sort of allow ourselves a draw there or even a defeat. So it's quite interesting watching how these fixtures sort of play out. I think I'm targeting the so-called easier games. The more of those we win, the more of sort of leeway we can give ourselves in the rest of the season.
I think, and this is the beauty of this league in some respects, is that anybody is capable of beating anybody else. And so where we might say Huddersfield is a might win, as we know, and we talked about before, we often do play better against better sides. So we could end up having like a win against Huddersfield, but then like maybe lose or might win to someone like Peterborough. So yeah, it's so difficult. Like Mark's already said, you're looking at the other teams, sort of how they're doing at the moment. And again, it's you're looking at teams where you've put in for like tough, but they're the games that we're potentially going to play better in. I mean, even like people were saying about Birmingham, and yeah, they won, but from what I can make out, it wasn't an awful performance, and we pretty much matched them. It was only because they poo-housed their way through the second half, really, that we didn't get anything from that. So it's so difficult to predict because, like we're saying, everyone is so unpredictable. I think where before the league has been pretty predictable, you could sort of guess roughly who you think you really fancy your chances against. But against, I guess then you look at other clubs. If they've got nothing to play for, are they going to be relaxed so they'll play better? Or if they've got nothing to play for, will they just be rubbish because they're already on their holidays? It's too difficult to predict. But again, what I would say is some of those tough or might win ones are the ones where I would then say, actually, that we might show like what we've done in these other games where we've beat teams that we didn't expect to beat, or draw against the teams that we weren't expected to get anything against.
So I've put tough in the last 2 away games of the season, which are Wickham and Wrexham. So I'm not saying we're not going to win those games. We're not going to get anything out of those games, but I've almost budgeted to get nothing out of those games to highlight where else we might pick up points. Now, Paul in the chat makes a very good point. They Wickham or Wrexham, either of them could be up by then. You never know, or we might be right on their coattails. So it could be a very different game. I mean, Tommy, in terms of the games he thinks we're going to win, he's highlighted Exeter, Crawley, Barnsley at home, Burton, Stockport, Cambridge, and Lincoln. I've assigned Leyton Orient away as tough, and that's not to say I don't think we're going to go there and get anything. I think it's going to be a fantastic game in a couple of weeks. London derby, as Gary says, he fancies us to get a point. I fancy us to go and get all 3. It could be a draw, could be a defeat. But what I think this is sort of, I'm almost getting some belief into myself here, looking at the run of games that we've got coming up. I mean, I've highlighted 7 games here as what I'd call must wins, and then put 4 into mights, which would give us draws, and that on paper should be enough, I think, for us, Mark. So what I think this is sort of telling us is it's a tough run-in, but I think this is doable. I think there's enough games for us. We've said Exeter, we've said Crawley, Wigan, we've said Lincoln, Cambridge, Northampton, we've said Burton. I think on another day I'd be tempted to make Peterborough a must-win, because I think they're very beatable away. And I think, I've put 4 away games there: Orient, Stockport, Wickham and Wrexham as tough, and therefore budgeted for 0 points. But I'll be absolutely shocked if we came out of those 4 games with 0 points.
Yeah, but unfortunately, football has got a way of biting you on the bum. And, my bookie has 2 holidays abroad every year because of the money he makes from my hackers. So I don't think it's going to be as easy as that, because, to be quite honest, looking at your grid, you could change the tough ones to must wins, the must wins to might wins, and I could still believe it. And it's the way football goes sometimes. We expect to go to Crawley, and they've been terrible, but they beat us. They score lots of goals, they concede lots of goals. It could be one of those ones you just don't know on the night. And like Sue says, because everyone can beat everybody, and teams are looking at us. Barnsley, Stockport are close round us. Huddersfield are up there. Is it going to be almost a kind of like, would they take a draw as well? As opposed to, and I don't sort of like, I stopped agreeing with people saying, at the end of the season, they've got nothing to play for. There's always something to play for. There could be contracts. There could be bonuses with a lot of clubs. Apart from us in the Premiership, where once we were safe, the last 7 games, it was pointless going out. A lot of clubs still have a lot to play for, and a lot of players have got things to play for as well. So you can't rely with Wickham. Wickham may go up behind Birmingham. Are they going to just take their foot off the gas totally? It's not likely, I'd have thought, because I think those players are going to say, I want to play in the Championship next season. I want to show the gaffer, that I'm worth an extension to the contract and stuff. I'm not just going to go out there and for 90 minutes and just dawdle around while the other team, score buckets against us. So, and it could quite easily turn around. I mean, like I say, Barnsley are just one of those teams. We've got good record against them. They've beaten us enough times. So I look at the last 6 more than the block you've got, and you're thinking, so in that last 6, Lincoln at home, Northampton and Burton at home are the 2 where you go, look, they are the must winners, because that will probably define where we finish if we are going to finish in the top 6. Anything we can get from Wickham away, Wrexham away, I mean, Hollywood away the last day, they're going to be up for it as well. But again, I agree with someone in the comments who said they've watched Wrexham and haven't been impressed. I think Wrexham came up in the league and had all the momentum and all the razzmatazz with them, and they set about it pretty well. But they've been found out a lot recently. So I think there's teams there which I know I'm thinking, you know what, I would take a draw, because I'm thinking, will I go to take Huddersfield at home? Would you take a? Yeah, I'll take a draw there, so they don't get a win and pull apart from us, and we don't drop any further below. So I think you've got to be pragmatic in seeing what you're looking to say. Look, I'll take a draw as opposed to go must win, because I think must win puts a lot of mental pressure on yourself.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that's fair. Some of the must-win games, though, are generally sides sort of lower down the table. But again, I think this is showing me, and sometimes I needed to see it, that there are enough winnable games for us to get to the amount of points roughly we're going to need. As Alfie points out, he said we might need more than 25 because it is incredibly close up there. And as Keith says, as Mark said as well, we should be targeting the teams above us, because if we lose those games, they'll all pull a further 3 points away, and obviously that becomes really important in sort of the running. I always look at the points per game over the course of most of the season, but then when you're sort of getting down to the nitty gritty, and it might be 72 or it might be 77, then it does become important, the results you get against the other side. Andrew's saying, it all depends on whether we can keep our key players fit or free from suspension, especially Lloyd Jones. I've got a feeling Connor Coventry is getting close to the yellow cards as well, and he'd miss out on 2 games, which would be exactly the thing we don't need at the moment. Gary reckons that 78 points might be needed. Paul's saying it's definitely doable, and I think it is absolutely doable. We've got ourselves into a very good position now, with some exciting games coming up. But as we can see on this grid of fixtures ahead of us, there's some winnable games there as well. We just got to make sure that we are as consistent as we have been over the last 12 games, 14 games now. Andrew's saying if we lose to our playoff rivals, then we'll need more than 75 points, which is a fair point. Liam also saying we just need to make sure that we get the team to stay fit. And as James says, rather than tough might win or winnable, it should be best version, average version, and worst version of ourselves. I noticed Nathan did mention again that we weren't the best version of ourselves on Saturday. John said he's not been that impressed with Wrexham this season. Sam says he feels like we need to get 10 points from the next 5 games. Again, I don't think there's any harm in sort of targeting the next few weeks and just trying to front load those points like we have done in the last few games. As Paul says, we're second in points per game since the beginning of December. We're second or third in a lot of the stats over the last 10, 14 games, whatever it was. I mentioned last week we're only just behind Orient on goal scoring. We go one game without scoring a goal, and I saw there was a bit of chat again on the forums and that about how we're not scoring enough goals. We are scoring plenty of goals, and we're consistently getting 2 a game pretty much. That's not really been a problem. Obviously, it was a problem Saturday, but we came up against a defence that don't let in many goals, unfortunately, and we just didn't have enough about ourselves to find those opportunities. James says we should have a look at the other teams around us and see what points they might get next week. I mean, it's maybe if we've got time to have a look at that as well. Steph says Charlton still have a losing streak and winning run to go on this season. Orient will slow down, but will probably just sneak into the playoffs. Next 10 games we need to win at least 6. I mean, that's a good thing. So all of this predicting we're going to do, it's impossible to predict, isn't it? It's going to be so exciting the last 15 games of this season, and how nice is it to be even saying that, considering where we've been the last few years?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been saying a while, and I think even you and I sort of talked on BBC London last night about the fact that you keep getting the graph out, and couple of weeks ago he was like, can we even get second? And how amazing is it that you're buzzing for the rest of the season? But like normally we're looking at it going, oh, just get it done with, get it over with, we let's next season, bring on next season. Whereas now we're like so excited about each game. And I know it is a cliche, and we're doing this as a bit of fun, but also to have a think about what do we need to get. But at the same time, it is 100% a game at a time. Don't think too far ahead. Don't get too ahead of ourselves. We just got to take each game. So Saturday's out the way. We look for the next one, and that I think that's the only way we're going to be able to do it. Because otherwise, I think if we get too carried away, you run the risk of then just falling flat on your face, didn't you? And I think again, with the players, listening to a couple of interviews, particularly with like Matty last night, it's really interesting to say like the lads are like, yeah, we feel like we can do it, but we are literally just taking a game at a time. Because again, like people talking about injuries or suspensions, you don't know who's going to be in the starting lineup the game after if someone gets a yellow on Saturday. So it's again, that adds to the kind of mix with the predictions that we're trying to make at the moment. There's so many contributing factors. It is pretty impossible to predict it, and that's why I'm saying, right, let's just take it a game at a time. Calm ourselves down a bit.
Yeah, Chris just said on Twitter as well, just got to remember we rocked up at Rotherham expecting an easy win and they schooled us. So yeah, it's all, like I say, it's all well and good trying to predict it. You never really know what's going to happen, of course, in League One. But yeah, it's very, very exciting. James says easy to worry about the other clubs. Let's just keep winning and let everyone else worry. Dudley, if we can get those wins against Exeter and then maybe Orient, the confidence will start to flow and hopefully more good results will follow. And Isaac just pointing out how difficult the running is going to be. How many of the remaining teams are well drilled and well coached? I can guarantee you, Isaac, it's all of them as we go into the end of the season. Right, that's enough of that. Well, that was interesting. I certainly found it interesting just to try and carve out a path to the playoffs for us. Hopefully we can follow that. I can guarantee if we look back at this in 15 games time, the results will look nothing like what we've said, because that's just not how it works, is it? But we've got an idea roughly of what we need to do. Right, on Saturday, let's hear from Nathan Jones. On Saturday, of course, Ashley Maynard-Brewer, the Addicts goalkeeper, limped out of the game with Birmingham at half-time. Nathan Jones was asked today for an update on his condition and for a chat a little bit about the goalkeeping department at the club.
Had to come off at half-time in the game. How is he? Do you know the extent of the injury?
It's not. He's got a groin injury, so Ashley will be out for how long we don't really know yet. We kind of got an idea, but there's no point speculating. We've just got to wait for a few things to settle down, and then we can have a better understanding of it.
Just on the goalkeeper battle, obviously Will starts the season as number one, drops out through injury. Ash Gow's dropped out through injury, hasn't done anything wrong. I was just wondering how you assess the battle between those two, because they're both getting opportunities this season.
Well, you kind of don't have necessarily a number one. You just need a goalkeeping department that's really strong, and that's what we felt we had. We needed to improve it slightly, so we did. We're constantly looking to improve every part of the squad, but we've got good competition in there. Ashley, was probably unlucky not to start the season, but Will, we brought Will in, and Will was excellent in pre-season. And then they've both, neither one of them have deserved to be left out in any way. The performance levels have been very good. I mean, early on in the season, we were only getting beaten from distance in terms of everything. So we've kept good clean sheets. We've been very secure. We've not had any performances where the goalkeeper has been, been really at fault. So they've both had a real good competition. And as I said, it's good to have two, recognised ones, because when one is out, you put the other one in and you've got no fears. And that's the position we're in with both.
I was going to ask you, you're a fan of having two number ones, basically, because there can be some situations where having a recognised number one and a clear backup number two is better for the number one goalkeeper, but those two seem to be thriving off the competition. Well,
I like to have a stronger squad possible. That's all I do, and if that means two recognised number one goalkeepers, then so be it, and then it's a competition and people to earn it. I understand that people say that the goalkeeping department's a specialist one, where one needs to be known he's going to play, the other one supports him. I'm not a big believer in that. No one ever gifted me anything in my career, and I had to work hard. Just every club I was at brought in left backs, left, right, and centre. So I had to make sure that I was at my level, and it served me well. So I'm all about creating competition. I want us to have the strongest squad possible for our budget. So yeah, no, I enjoy that side of it.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones speaking about the injury to Ashley Maynard-Brewer, just the competition for that place in between the sticks, Mark. James asking, obviously now with Ashley out with this groin injury for an indeterminate amount of times, he said we could go down to our third choice keeper if things go wrong against us. He asked who that is. So it's Tommy Reid, as it stands. Obviously the youngster has not made a first team appearance yet. You'll see him out there warming up quite often before the game. with the two other stoppers, and obviously with Stephen Henderson. But the question asked there by Ed Brack, which is Richard's friend at the SLP, about we don't have a number one, do we? Literally, we don't have a number one. There's no number one in the squad in terms of shirt number, but two similar goalkeepers who've both kept their place when they've gone in between the sticks. The only way they've come out is via injury. I mean, what have you made of the goalie department this season? Obviously, there was a lot of talk in the summer that we're trying to get someone else in. I think Asmir Begovic was on the list at one point. But what have you made of their performances this year? I mean, because they haven't been dropped. They haven't needed to be dropped.
Well, I mean, I think it was 13 clean sheets. That sort of like speaks for the performances. It's funny because, we did talk about getting a keeper in the summer because I think a lot of people thought that Ash was going, and obviously Mannion had come in, and no one really thought Mannion was going to be the starter. We thought, a goalkeeper's going to come in, and then the window in January, same again. I think people were thinking possibly a goalkeeper could come in. I agree with Nathan. Said no one's done enough to say you've been dropped. I mean, they have both made mistakes. And I think, to be quite honest, I think Charlton fans in general are pretty split down the middle with sort of like, do they prefer Ash? Do they prefer? I don't think it's a hill anyone's going to die on with choosing your number one goalkeeper. And I think it's a case of, is it the first name you're going to put on your sheet? If you were picking your fantasy Charlton side, who you're going to start with, who you're going to play, if you're going to get to your goalkeepers, you could possibly take a coin out and toss it, heads Ash and tails Will. But I don't have any worries about Will coming in. I think he's looked steady. I don't think he's been spectacular, but he hasn't probably needed to be. And like I say, I think there's a mistake at this level. Remember, we're League One. At this level, you're going to get keepers who make mistakes. I think the third guy, you said Tommy Reid, he's quite... Is he tall? I mean, I know that sounds a stupid question, but is he sort of like 6'6" or like that?
I don't think so. No, from memory, I don't think he's spectacularly tall. But I might be missing. To be fair, I've never seen him play. He's not made a first team appearance
beforehand, and I thought there was a really sort of quite a tall goalkeeper with quite a long arm wingspan. So I may be someone else had gone out there, but it's a tough one with the goalies. If it's for one position where you're thinking, right, we're going to change one, goalkeeper. I think if you can keep the 10 outfield players as they are, as we've been picking for the last 8-9 games, and you had to change one player, you'd probably change the goalkeeper, because I don't think anyone out in front of them has done anything that's bad to say, I would bring him in. And the goalkeepers, you can say, well, today I fancy Ash, today I fancy Will. Is it going to affect the team that much? Possibly not. So I don't think it's going to go make a difference.
Yeah, Elia asked as well about Karl Hein. That rings a bell on loan from Arsenal. And somebody ended up going to the German league or something. I can't remember, but that name does ring a bell. Sam says he thinks Ash is a better stopper. Will is better commanding his box. And I agree 100% with that, actually. But wouldn't give either much credit for clean sheets. I think it's all been down to the defence. Don't think either have had that much to do. It'd be interesting to see if we could dig out some sort of stats about the amount of saves our goalkeepers have made. But they've played their part in it. I think as Mark says, they both have their attributes and they probably both have their downfalls. I think there's been a couple of times, well, for both keepers. I mean, Ash maybe last year, but certainly I know Ash was this year as well, wasn't it, against Crawley when he palmed one out into a slightly dangerous area, and obviously Will Mannion did that away at Barnsley. But I think Will is the stronger goalkeeper coming for crosses. I think Ash is a good shot stopper overall. They both have their moments. Obviously, Ash has had his moments with decision making, and as we sort of said on Sunday's show, you really have to make a very firm decision about whether you're inside or outside the box before picking the ball up, which Ash obviously failed to do on Saturday. Sam says did feel we needed a goalkeeper in the January window, especially now with us using the academy. And as John says, there was a couple of games where we didn't have a keeper on the bench this season. Luckily, that wasn't Saturday up at Birmingham. Right, before we turn our attention to Exeter City, I just want to hear this little bit of audio as well. But Alex Mitchell, of course, come out the side over the last few weeks with Kane Ramsey back in the team. Nathan Jones was asked about Alex earlier on today.
Just finally on Alex Mitchell, played the other day for the under-21s, dropped out of the starting lineup recently. Has he just been a victim to how good the defence has been under you recently?
Well, look, we've got real competition in that area. So, as we said, we want to be defensively sound, and Alex has been excellent in terms of being defensively sound. You know, our defensive record's been really good, and then we want to be very progressive in possession, and that's an evolution side of us. That's where we want to evolve now and be better in possession. So all these factors come into mind, and bear in mind at the minute the three that are playing are in very good form. You know, Kane's been excellent since he's come back in. Lloyd has been one of our best performers all season, and Mac has made that berth, you know, really comfortable and given them that balance. But all three of them have got real good competition now with what we have. With Tenai coming back, you know, we know Tenai can play in those positions. We know Alex can play central or right, and the same with Tom. So we're very happy, but you know, we want them to continue. We want them to embrace the competition and to be at it. And if their levels are good, then you know they've stayed in. I haven't made too many, you know, gratuitous changes, if you like. We've stuck with people that have played well.
There you go. That's Nathan Jones on Alex Mitchell. I mean, he hasn't done much wrong this season, Sue, but that is the benefit of competition. He's given away a couple of sloppy passes. I think his work in possession isn't quite as good as his work as a sort of a defender dealing with crosses and tackles and that sort of thing. And I think that's what Nathan hinted at there about us trying to play out a bit more. But you know, that's competition at the back, and it's a part of the pitch where obviously someone like Kane Ramsey can come in, and that is very difficult competition to dislodge in that side.
Yeah, and they're both very different players. So I guess again, you have decisions where, I mean, you should play your own game, but sometimes you need to set up to play against your opposition, and maybe sometimes Alex might be more suited to who we're playing on a particular day. But it's a shame for Alex, because I thought he's fantastic, and I love the getting stuck in attitude that he's got. Whereas, I mean, obviously Kane is so skillful and fast. Alex has got the more sort of beefy, getting stuck in type play. So you can't really compare them. But we've said before, it's nice to be in a position where we've got players that are equally as good as each other in different ways, that are competing for those places and putting pressure on each other to improve their game. So it's a massive positive for me. But yeah, I do feel for Alex. But again, it's the gaffer knows best. He sees them in training every day, so you go with it.
Lovely stuff. Right, we're going to have a quick break here on Charlton Live. When we come back, it will be time to look ahead to Saturday's home game with Exeter City.
PSF Steel Limited is a trade supplier of steel fabrication and erection services to the new build, construction and refurbishment market in southern England. With their unrivaled depth of experience, they excel at providing their customers with high quality and cost-effective steel fabrication solutions. Their customers include national and regional house builders, such as Barratt Homes, Bellway Homes, the Vistry Group and Taylor Wimpey. They pride themselves on their service-based ethos and commitment to customer service excellence, which includes full technical backup and on-site services and support. If you would like more information, go to www.psfsteel.co.uk. That's www.psfsteel.co.uk.
Hello fellow addicts, I'm so excited to tell you all about our micropub, the River Ale House. The River Ale House is based in East Greenwich. It has 6 Pub of the Year awards, an ever-changing selection of amazing beer. It's owned by Charlton fans, walkable to the ground in just 20 minutes with buses that go direct to the Valley too. If your matchday routine includes a drink with your friends, you must join your fellow addicts in the river. See you soon.
Right, welcome back to Charlton Live. This is the big match preview. Now time to look ahead to Saturday's home game with Exeter City. Delighted to say that we are joined by a GRECIANS fan and, of course, a fundraiser and an ambassador for the Adam Stansfield Foundation, Tom Vickery. Good evening, Tom. How you doing, my friend?
Hi, nice to thank you for having me. Really well, thank you. Yeah, really well, thanks.
Good, yeah, really pleased to have you on Charlton Live this evening. And before we talk, obviously, about the great work that you do with the Adam Stansfield Foundation, let's talk about City themselves. Back in the dark winter months again after what happened last season. Of course, I mean you've just won for the first time in 9 away at Cambridge. Sort of talk us through how the season's gone so far for Gary Caldwell's side.
Yeah, it's been pretty grim, to be fair. That much needed win on Saturday. Much needed clean sheet as well. It's the first clean sheet in 15 games, so it's been really grim. Started off with the defence, and we signed 2 good players actually, Angus MacDonald and Ed Downs. But unfortunately, he got sent off against Forest. It was a bit of an iffy one, but looking back, it probably was a red card. Silly challenge, really, because it was on the halfway line and they weren't really going anywhere. So it was a stupid red card. But yeah, it's just been really grim. A lot of the fans don't really like us playing around at the back. I think we watched, the lower leagues when they're watching Premier League sides do it. They just make it look so easy, your Man Cities and your Liverpools. But little old Exeter City doing it, it's I don't know, it's constantly on edge. And even though we've got Joe Whitworth on loan from Crystal Palace, and he does look really good with his feet, our defence not so. So yeah, it's a lot of it's become from silly defensive errors, injuries in the defence, which again you don't really want to use excuses, but the defence hasn't helped. Losing Ali late on in the transfer window wasn't ideal because it kind of came out of the blue. I think Luton kind of, for us, it was silly money. We've not had him long, and signing him from Halifax on a bargain and selling him for 1.5, I believe. Little fee to Halifax, but for City, it's massive profit. But I think it was more of a panic buy for Luton. Don't really think he's Championship level, but who knows? But yeah, it's just been the defence. It's been really shaky.
Hi, Tom. I was just thinking back because obviously you were doing so well under Matt Taylor, and you sort of covered it in what you were just saying about where it's kind of gone wrong. But like, just in terms of the squad, where are the strengths and the positives? Who are your kind of men to look out for?
Hi, Sue. I think we've got a really strong midfield. Obviously, Mitchell has got a lot of experience on the wing. Again, he's been in and out the team, which the injury didn't help. So he always looks lively, whether he starts or comes off of the bench. McGuinness up front has started to look a handful. Again, he gets criticised up on the big bank when you stood there listening to fans that think they're football managers. Because obviously he's not putting the ball in the back of the net. Everyone thinks he's a bad striker, but everything he does off the ball, he's 34, he's experienced, he knows where the back of the net is. So Joe Whitworth he's looked good at times, and he's also looked a bit nervous at times, shall we say, shaky. I think he gets beaten outside the box far too easy. A lot of people worry about Joe's height, which, again, I think he uses it well with crosses. So, you can be a short keeper, but if you're springy, then who cares if you're short or 6'8", as long as you're keeping the ball out the net, which we haven't been. But obviously, Crystal Palace, great potential in Joe, and they've done the right thing sending him to Exeter on loan. We've got great experience of goalkeepers. Sinisala, who's from Villa at the time, now gone, went back to Villa, but Celtic signed him as a number 2. Cam Dawson, who was out of favour at Sheffield Wednesday, came and really, really helped us get the promotion. So for a team like Crystal Palace, sending them to Exeter City, it would do him the world of good. But as I say, he's looked really good at times, but at times he has, just looked like a bang average League One goalkeeper, really, which we were hoping for a bit more from a Premier League side, really.
Hey, Tom. I think you would possibly do yourselves a bit of injustice, because I think you did really well against Forest in the Cup. I mean, to take a team who are flying in the Premiership to extra time and penalties, and with 10 men as well. But is the feeling that with this season, you should change managers, or do you think that would just be putting a sticking plaster on a broken leg? Or are you thinking give him chance, because you can see what he can do when he gets the team playing well, like the Forest game, and you went toe to toe with them? Or is it a case of you're not seeing enough there to say this is the bloke we want to have, driving our bus for the next 2 years, 3 years or so.
Yeah, it's a good point, really. I'd probably say it's edging towards maybe 50-50 with the fans wanting Caldwell in and Caldwell out, which you don't really want. And the lead up to Forest was kind of not great with the fans. The run-in, apart from beating Oxford in the Cup, was really grim. So as much as we should have all been really buzzing and hyped up about the game, there was that element of we've been conceding, prior to Forest, we got hammered 6-2 at home to Orient, 3-1. The results have just been endless of just getting hammered. So yeah, it was a great performance, absolutely fantastic. And we went toe to toe with a side that they made a lot of changes. But even when they brought the big boys on, we were down to 10 men at the time, and we really held our own. We're out on our feet, and you saw the difference in penalties. As much as the big bank was trying to put off Premier League players that are on silly money every week, they just look so calm and collective. Whereas our players, Reece Cole, you can usually rely on, and it was a poor penalty. And then, last year it got a bit like this with Caldwell, and I started to voice my opinions on Twitter at the time, which now obviously known as X, and didn't really get me anywhere. And then suddenly we turned it around, and a lot of people started giving me a lip. But yeah, so I've kind of kept my voices quite quiet on social medias, but I really want to like Caldwell as a manager, and I think I kind of want to say he's a good manager, but when you look at his past experience, not so. The managers, the sides he's managed, of the fan base are really, really not in his favour. And a lot of the players he's brought in have been average. But the strange thing is with Caldwell, he's kind of got a job until he wants one. We're not known to sack managers, but there's been a number of jobs that apparently he's tried. MK Don's shortlisted, and he kind of went for that job. So he's kind of jumping at the first hurdle, and Preston or Stoke were not after him, but after a new manager, and he went for that as well, which he didn't get. So it's kind of like he's itching. And don't get me wrong, he's from up north, but he's trying to create a team here, but it can't be any good with a manager that's kind of any job that's available. He's trying to go, but yeah, I'm kind of 50-50, but it's really hard because at the minute the Forest game kind of did quieten things down a tiny bit, and we really put in a performance to everyone was talking about us. Ian Wright was very complimentary, and that's the Exeter City we know, fighting heart, but we've not been seeing it.
And just finally, Sam sort of hinted at obviously having a glamour fan like David L. I think a lot of people who listen to the You Don't Know What You're Doing podcast probably have a bit of a more interest in Exeter than I do in most League One sides. But one of the things I love about Exeter City is obviously the fan ownership, how close it feels, like a really sort of family close knit club. And yourself and you got one brother who I think is on BBC Devon, hosts BBC Devon, is that right? And then you and your other brother, this is really impressive, do all this great work for the Adam Stansfield Foundation. So just sort of briefly, just tell us about the work you do with them and the sort of landmark you've just surpassed.
Yeah, so it's gone nuts really. We kind of it marked the 9th anniversary of Adam's passing 6 years ago. And obviously he was loved at every club he went to, but Exeter City was obviously mine and Jack, my brother's side, and we adored Adam. So it kind of hit the 9th anniversary, and he in his career, he wore the number 9 shirt. So we kind of sat down and thought, what can we do? There's a Great West Run in Exeter, which is the half marathon around the streets and here, there and everywhere around Exeter. And we thought, we'll do it for the foundation. So we done the training leading up. We set the fundraising page up. We set our target at £3,000, and 2 weeks ago we hit the £250,000 mark, which it's just gone mental. It really has. It's players, coaches, even players of clubs like yourself, Charlton. We kind of try and time it when we play the side. So like I think Jack's picking up a shirt on Saturday from one of the coaches. So they understand what Adam meant to Exeter. So it's just great that they support. You know, we just tweet them asking if they're happy to follow us, and they follow us, ask what they can do. We've had all sorts: boots, gloves, shirts, match-worn shirts. We've had cricket bats, cricket shirts, horse racing trousers signed by the jockey room. It's just gone absolutely mental. It really has. And the wardrobe's still full now. The postman's constantly, knocking on the door, 2-3 parcels at a time. So yeah, and we hit the £200,000 mark, and Jay actually presented us with these lovely shirts, England shirts for the under-21s signed by himself. But it was a surprise, Jay coming. Actually, we met the family, the uncle and auntie for dinner, and Jay rocked up, which was lovely.
That's brilliant. As a lot of people in the chat are saying, it's a great achievement. And it sums up what Exeter City is all about for me. I think fantastic club. Obviously, I hope we absolutely smash you on Saturday. Of course, though. Tom, thanks for your time on Charlton Live this evening.
Pleasure.
All the best for the rest of the season. There we go. That's Tom Vickery looking ahead to Saturday's game from an Exeter City point of view. Let's look ahead to the game from an Addicks point of view. Nathan Jones was asked to preview the match earlier on today.
Okay, other than Ashley.
Yeah, all good thing. So we had a few of them play on Tuesday, and in the 21s, people that needed minutes. Mitchell, our tune, obviously Tom and Tenai and DK. They played. So it was good for them to get minutes and to get a little bit more up to speed, because as I said, we're going to need it.
I was going to ask that very question actually, because 4 senior players in that under-21 against Millwall. Is it a reflection of course, we've got a couple of weeks where we haven't got 2 games, but when we get into March, we've got 3 and 6. So is that an indication that you're going to need to have them up to speed?
Oh, absolutely. We need everyone. We know we're going to need everyone. And as I said, Tenna's been out for a little bit, hasn't really played. He's been training for a few weeks, but probably needed the minutes. Alex Mitchell's just been out with the team and hasn't had 90s. He's contributed. He's had 25, I think, starts this year. So he's not like it's just he needs a bit of rhythm, and that's what we used it for. And it was a really good competitive game against a Millwall side where we always know what we're going to get when you come up against Millwall, and you know you were going to have a competitive game, and it was for that purpose. It was excellent.
And most importantly, we beat them. But let's get moving on from there. Despite the scoreline Saturday, there were 25,500 fans in the stadium, in the Charlton section, sold out, loud and proud in the away end. Does that give the club, everyone at the club and players as well, impetus to say, this is where we should be playing sort of every week? I mean, with all due respect to League One, there are about 6 or 7 grounds where you could probably get that, whereas when you're in the Championship, there are 22 possibly. Is that an incentive for the players and the club?
Well, it should be, because that's where we want our next protocol to be, and we have to earn that, we have to build that, and things. I said, Birmingham have been used to playing sort of Championship football for a long time, so them being in the division, and there are a few that can say that, Charlton being one of them. But for us, it's about concentrating on building a football club, on getting back to where we want to be on and off the pitch. And then that's, our fans were magnificent on the weekend. They really made a proper game. And as I said, there was 2 proper clubs going at it on Saturday. And that's what I'm saying. The only shame from the thing was, because I thought it was an excellent spectacle for League One football. It's just we just needed to show a little bit more about us and a bit more of our quality. And then I think, look, I'm not saying we've done enough to deserve the game, to win the game, but I don't think we should have lost it either.
Exeter at the Valley up next on Saturday. They managed to get their first league win in 9 on Saturday. They'll be scrapping for points to pull away from the relegation zone, and they turned us over, obviously, at their place last time out. What are you expecting on Saturday from them?
Look, again, another League One game would be very difficult. I mean, we were nowhere near our levels when we played them down there, and that's the thing we need to concentrate on. We've had a few results this year where we've not been ourselves. We've not really sort of done ourselves justice, and that was one of them. So we want to put that right, but we're not looking backwards, we're looking forwards, and what we want to make sure is that we are, again, us, and if we're us and we're at it, then that's all I can concentrate on. So we're looking forward to the game, and we've been very good at home, and we want that to continue.
There we go. That's Nathan Jones. I mean, he's not over egging the fact that we've been very good at home too. We're unbeaten in 8. So the last time we lost at home was obviously that Crawley game, which feels like a billion years ago now. And that was only the second game we've lost at home as well this season. If I think, we really aren't getting beaten much on home turf. We've won our last 4, won 6 of our last 7 at home. We're doing what we have to do, Sue, but what we have to do is continue that between now and the rest of the season, because this, I'm afraid to point out, is one that we've highlighted in green as a must-win.
Yeah, no, I think like all football fans would say, isn't it? You've always got to go for winning your home games. Like, you're the home team with the fans behind you. You should really be going for the wins at home, and it's lovely this season that we are getting those results at home, because people are going home a lot happier, and we can rename it the Fortress Valley like we used to.
Yeah, it feels a bit a long time since we've called it that, isn't it? So it's like we had an open door policy for quite a few years, unfortunately, rather than a fortress. Mark, I mean, obviously Tom's not here anymore, so we can speak frankly about Exeter. I mean, their win against Cambridge was the first time in a while. You know, they've had injury problems. They've had one thing that we forgot to ask Tom about actually is one of their players has just been I think charged with drink driving as well. One of their better players, Miskinen, I think he's called. One who I remember thinking he stood out in the first game. So a little bit of turmoil there, but you know we've really got to sort of put pressure on a side like this. You know, they've been conceding a lot of goals, like multiple. They conceded 6 at home to Orient a few weeks ago. They've been letting in, I think, 4 away at maybe Stevenage or somewhere like that. They've been letting in a lot of goals recently. So we've really got to try and get at them from the off and just test that defence, which hasn't had a good time of it recently.
Yeah, but I hope that player isn't driving the team bus up from Exeter. Otherwise, they could end up in Bristol. Yeah, it's one of those ones. Is a must win. If we draw, it's going to feel like a loss because of where they are and what they've been doing. I mean, ship 6 to Leyton Orient, Orient are flying at the moment, really. But to ship 6 to a team like that, you think yourself, there's got to be something fundamentally wrong. And like Tom was saying, he wants to have them play around from the back and play out. And I think that might play into our hands because we're pretty good pressing forward. And with enthusiasm, if they don't turn it around at the kickoff and we face the covered end in the second half, which is always seems, whether it's just psychologically, it just feels better and we can get into them, or they're going to be one of those teams, if you score an early one against them, are they just going to sort of like, oh, here we go again? So we've got to start fast. I don't think Coventry can worry about getting a card. And if he does get a card, because you said earlier what's going to happen. Well, Karoy can come in and do some donkey work, or you've got Gilbert there now who can come in and look for the ball. So not too worried if he picks up a yellow, because I think you've got that hanging over you, and I think it's still a couple of weeks to go before it all gets wiped out. It's sooner or later that's going to happen. It's one of those ones. It's on us. You know, you're not really worried about which Exeter turns up. It's the onus is on us. And the way we've been playing at home, I don't agree with Birmingham being a free hit. And people say, well, it doesn't matter because they won because it's Birmingham. We weren't, like Nathan said, we weren't at our best either. So Birmingham didn't have to do anything special to beat us. So maybe I think having a free week and they're getting some rest into some legs. I mean, TC hopefully has had a couple of days, you know, just in front of his TV playing his PlayStation or something, and he hasn't had to sort of like run around and then feels a bit recharged. That might benefit. Still start with Godden up front. I think you have to. And if their defence is shaky, they do like playing it, pressure them, because if there's mistakes to make, Berry can sniff it out. Coventry, Doc. It's funny, before the show started, my little boys were playing around and I was interviewing them, and Joey says, yes, we're going to win 1-0 and the captain's going to score. So if we win 1-0 and the captain scores, we can put it all on my little one's shoulders. So, but I hope we at least put 4 or 5 past them, just because we need to put our goal difference up. Because that's, seeing in the chat, someone said we could actually miss out on playoffs on goal difference.
Yeah, I mean, Andrew's just asked how many games have we played this season where there's been more than 1 goal in it. So I've just flicked up one of these websites that has all the stats on it. So obviously draws, that there's nothing in any of the games, but we've got 17 of our games that we haven't drawn have been by 1 goal. 3 of our wins have been by 2 goals, and we've been beaten by 2 goals twice. None by 3, and then obviously we've had the 5-0 away at Northampton. So the vast majority of our games, like that's what's about 80-90% there, are all by 1 goal margins, Sue. So, I mean, a lot of people have been concerned about goal difference. I mean, is that something we need to just pile on then? Just try and get a couple of big wins just as a safety blanket. It'd be interesting to look at the stats about how often it does come down to goal difference. My feeling is it's probably more often points than goal difference. But I mean, there's no need to take a chance, I guess.
And I think this season is different, as we've already talked about earlier, is that it is so tight that it could come down to goal difference in the difference between being in the playoffs and not. So I guess again, you've just got to go for it, like not go 2-0 up and then sit on it. And I, to be fair, I think on the whole, we don't tend to do that. We do tend to still keep trying. It's almost like we do take our foot off the gas slightly if we go like the couple of games where we've gone 2 up. But yeah, I think you still got to go for it, haven't you? Because like I say, we've just, with the league being this tight, then it could make that difference. So
yeah, I mean, as Kevin says in the chat, I mean, we ourselves did lose out on goal difference about 4 years ago. Was it under Nigel? I was thinking about that earlier, but hopefully that's rare and the lightning doesn't strike twice. But we'll see. In terms of team selection, so a couple of people said in the build-up to the Birmingham game that they thought TC had looked a bit tired, and I hadn't really seen it in the game previous, but then at Birmingham I thought he either looked tired or nervous, so maybe does he need a time off? James is saying, well, he's had a week off, he's a professional sportsman, he should be okay now. Andrew saying maybe Leeburn for TC. I mean, some people have said Gilbert coming in. Alex saying maybe Gilbert could start instead of TC. I don't know, it'd be a shift slightly, wouldn't it, in sort of position, and John saying Gilbert could start behind instead of Berry, rest Berry for Exeter. Mark, I mean, you've got any choices? I mean, Nathan's not a tinker man, is he? He's no Claudio Ranieri, so I don't think he'll make changes if he doesn't need to.
No, I would not be surprised at all if he goes with exactly the same lineup, apart from goalie, on Saturday. And I think because he's now looking at the bench and going, right, these are the game changers I can sit on the bench. I've got Gilbert, I've got Leeburn, chucks we can put on. That's what I'm looking at. So if it's a 0-0 at half time, say, right, what can we give? What can we change it in the second half? And if you're cruising 3-0 at half time, you might say, right, now I can make some changes and give someone a bit of extra rest if it's not going to affect the team too much. But I would be shocked if he changed anyone, really. It's fact, because I think he's now looking and thinking, I've now got players behind me who I can say, right, get stripped off. This is what I need you to do. I mean, the only difference is I think there's a lot of debate online about when does he make his subs too early. People say, oh, he's made subs too early, or too late. It's a difficult one. Players have to have enough time to get into the swing of a game and make a difference. I think you need 20 minutes minimum. So
lovely stuff, right? Yeah, James says he thinks Leeburn should play. Sam saying we need to be ruthless, like we were against Northampton. Right, we've run out of time on this week's big match preview. There's a bit of chat about, so I haven't actually had a chance to properly read this stuff that's come out about sponsorship and that for next season. So maybe we'll have a proper chat on that on Sunday, because there has been, I've seen a couple of people suggesting maybe they're talking about naming rights for the Valley, but I haven't read it properly to see what they're actually saying. It might just be hoardings, or I know it said something about stadium branding. So I'll read that properly. We'll talk about it Sunday, because I know it's a divisive subject that people will want to have a chat about. Right, massive thanks to everyone who's joined us on this evening's show on the live chat, and to Tom, of course, our Exeter City supporter. Always a pleasure to look ahead with an opposition fan. Sue and Mark, it's always a pleasure to speak to the pair of you two as well.
You too. I'm a bit
You there,
gutted that
mate?
you didn't read out Dilly Ding Dilly Dong.
Yeah, I know. What I've got left of my dignity, I decided to hold on to for now. Maybe we'll do it if we win on Sunday. I'll do it on Sunday. Right. This has been Charlton Live, sponsored by PSF Steel Limited. We'll be back on Sunday morning to look back at the game against Exeter. Hopefully, we'll be talking about another 3 points for the Addicts. We shall see you then.